Hello everybody, welcome to video 1 of my health series, and in this video we'll be discussing what health is, what health isn't, and that's because if you can understand what health is, you can then make better quality choices, which then lead on to a better quality of life. Okay, so I'm going to start off by asking you a question, and the first question is, how would you define health? Okay, so what is health? And then once you've defined it, how do you know? So feel free to pause the video and just have a think about those questions for a second. So what is health? How do you define it? And then how do you know? So how do you know if you're healthy or not? Now, I've asked this question to hundreds of people throughout my health talks, and the two biggest answers I get are number 1, if I look good, number 2, if I feel good, then I must be healthy. So looking good being generally looking well, not carrying too much weight. Feeling good being if I feel good in myself, if I don't have any pain or any signs or any symptoms, then I must be healthy. Now, if we have a think, we probably all know somebody or have heard of somebody who looked good, felt good, wasn't particularly old, and then all of a sudden just passed away of a cardiac arrest. Now, in 50% of people with heart disease, there's a 50% chance that you may have a cardiac arrest, and the likelihood of surviving that cardiac arrest outside of the hospital is about 6%. Okay, so that's the very first sign or symptom that they have. Now, were they healthy when they were having their cardiac arrest? No. Were they healthy 10 minutes before having their cardiac arrest? No. Were they healthy a year before having their cardiac arrest? Probably not. How about 5 years or 10 years before that? Depends how long you want to go back. But heart disease gradually builds up silently over time in most people. Okay? Now, I've had people in my family, unfortunately, who have been just over 50 years old, who looked good, felt good, no problems at all, and then unfortunately were told that they have cancer spread throughout the whole body and then they have 3 months to live. So it's not looking good and feeling good and not reliable symptoms, not reliable ways of judging how your body is in a state of health, which is one of the reasons why I'm doing these videos, is because I don't want people relying on something that's completely unreliable, especially when it comes to your health. Okay? So, when it comes to our health, we have a scale. Okay? So, on one end of the scale, we have what we call wellness. And so, if we have wellness over this end, what would we have over this end? So, over this end, we'd have something what we call illness. Okay? So, everybody is somewhere along this scale. Okay, and every decision we make every single day either brings us closer to one end or brings us closer to the other end. So each time we decide to drink plenty of water, each time we choose to exercise, each time we decide to eat right, it brings us closer to this. And each time we choose to have a takeaway, drink alcohol, smoke, not exercise, it brings us closer to this end. Okay? Now, whose responsibility is it to actually take care of our health? Yeah, it's our own. And when is the best time for us to start actually doing that? When I asked this question in a health class, one lady who's in her 80s shouted out, "When we're young," which is a brilliant answer, but unfortunately we don't have a time machine to go back in time to change our previous choices. But what we can do is start today, and the good news is that you're never too old to start looking after yourself. Now, my oldest patient is 92 years old, and his name's David, and he's the only person I allow to say, "I'm getting old." So nobody else is allowed to say it until they get older than him. Okay, so when I first saw him about 3 years ago, he came in with a walking stick in one hand and a load of x-rays in the other, and he came hobbling in. and he wasn't able to walk properly, and we found out that where his pains and problems were becoming so bad, things were getting tighter, things were getting stiffer, his strength was decreasing, his mobility is decreasing, his independence was decreasing. And for David, he lives on his own, and the one thing he's petrified of was going into a home. But if you can't look after yourself, then, where else are you going to go? So I took a look at his x-rays and done an examination, and found out that where he had so much degeneration in his lower back, it was starting to give him a curvature of his lower back, which was starting to rotate which was really rotating his pelvis, which is why he needed the walking stick to be able to walk properly. Okay, and at the end of the consultation he said, "Are you able to help?" And I said, "To be honest with you, David, it's been going on for such a long time and things are so bad that I'm not actually sure if I'm able to help at this point. It may be where it's a bit too far gone. But if you want to give it a go, we can try. But I'm not promising anything. And if we are going to get anywhere with it, it's going to take weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks." And he turns around to his daughter who brought him along, and he said, "Well, I'm only spending your inheritance money, so let's give it a go." And it did take weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. But eventually we found that he started coming in without his walking stick. He then started to be able to get around his house comfortably and do all the things he needed to look after himself comfortably. After a few months, he was then able to go across the street to do his own shopping, and then a few months later he's then able to go down the street to get his own haircut. So instead of his health and independence and mobility decreasing over time, now what's starting to happen is that his strength and independence and mobility is starting to increase. Now, in this country, we're very, very lucky to have a national health service, and it saves many, many lives on a daily basis. So if I was to ask you, where does the NHS manage us? Does it manage us when we're here, or does the NHS manage us when we're here? Okay, and although we call it a national health service, really what it is a national sick care service, which is really important. We're really blessed to have this service because it's really important that we have it and we need it, especially for emergencies and times of crisis. Okay, is something you can't put a price on. This model here is known as allopathic care. So this is the land of pain, symptoms, diseases, conditions, and in this area here you'll find practitioners like GPs, nurses, surgeons, pharmacists, okay, and they have an outside-in approach. So they ask the question, what can I give to you, or what can I cut out of you to try and manage this condition or disease, to bring you out of crisis and try and bring you to here. Okay. Now, the opposite of the allopathic care approach, and on this half of the scale, is what we call a salutogenic approach. So salutogenesis asks the question, what can I do to bring myself into a better overall state of health? So this is the land of health, wellness, vitality, energy, and this is where chiropractors are. Okay. Now, lots of people initially see chiropractors because they're here somewhere and they already have some sort of ache or pain or condition going on. But the role of the chiropractor is not to try and get you to here. The role of the chiropractor is to try and get you as close to here as you possibly can. And guess what happens when your body starts to improve in its health overall? Guess what happens to those aches and pains and conditions? Yeah. So the closer you get to here, naturally those sorts of things start to go away on their own. Okay. So, which is a reason why when most people start to feel a lot better and their body's improving its overall state of health, they start to notice other benefits as well. Like, for example, that they start to sleep better. Like, for example, that they have more energy. Like, for example, that their posture improves. Like, for example, they start to feel better in themselves. And when they feel better in themselves, the relationships of the people they have around them starts to improve as well. So when most people start to feel those benefits, they then start taking a more of a proactive approach to their health. So there are two types of people in the world. You have reactive people and you have proactive people. So reactive people, when something goes wrong, they're in a crisis and they go, crap, alright, okay, what do I need to do to get myself out of this? Proactive people are always looking for, okay, how can I avoid this? Which is another reason why people come out of this reactive zone and then start to make more informed choices, keeping themselves here for as long as possible. And that's the part of being a chiropractor. And I see my role is to keep you here for as long as you possibly can and make sure that we don't start to creep into this area here. Imagine everybody took responsibility for their health every single day. What do you think that would do to the health of the country? And then as a result of that, what do you think would happen to the strain that we have on the NHS? Yeah, it would come down massively. So I'm going to leave you with the definition of health. And the definition of health is the physical, chemical, and emotional well-being of the person, and the body's ability to adapt to the internal and external environment. And we'll be digging into those things in the next few videos. Okay, so I hope you found this helpful, and then I look forward to seeing you on the next one.